BioNTech was founded in 2008 by the husband and wife team of Uyghur Sahin and Özlem Tureki. Now, in January 2020, Sahin, one of the founders, read an article in the medical journal Lancet about a new coronavirus in China, right? January, at a time when apparently nobody knew what was going on, and Donald Trump continues to claim that nobody told us what was happening. But apparently this person somehow knew. After discussing it with his wife over breakfast in January, he sent an email to the other members of BioNTech with Pfizer, right? I mean, that's today with Pfizer. The board of BioNTech saying that it was wrong to believe that this virus would come and go as easily as MERS and SARS. Quote, "This time it is different," he told them. So he read a newspaper article about something that nobody was defining at this point. We were still figuring things out. And somehow this guy, who is perfectly poised right now to be one of the leading groups in regard to this breaking technology, somehow knew before anybody else that this was going to be different and it would be perfectly used to make this vaccine successful. How crazy. I don't understand why that's not the dumbest thing ever. Think about the timeline. That's crazy. But apparently he knew before anybody else, including governments around the world, and kicked this into gear, and days later was working on a vaccine. I buy it completely. BioNTech launched a crash project to devise a vaccine based on RNA sequences, which the owner was able to write within days, they say, that would cause human cells to make versions of the coronavirus spike protein. Again, so the same point from the other group. So here they are, the other group, saying within days from getting this material, or the claim of material from China, somehow within days they were already working on this and done and already beginning to push it into testing. It's amazing what people will buy today. Now, Moderna, chair and co-founder, which is Noubar Afeyan, Moderna had more than 20 drugs in development, but none had ever reached the final stage of clinical trials until now. Now, Afeyan instantly authorized him to start work. He said, "Don't worry about the board. Just get moving," after he was told about what was going on. Again, same thing. Moved out all the stops before anybody knew what was happening. Maybe they knew what was happening. Moderna had to depend on funding from the U.S. government, as we know, as I reported, at a time when nobody knew what was going on. Anthony Fauci, head of the NIH and of the NIAID, was supportive. "Go for it," he declared. "Whatever it costs, don't worry about it," before we knew what was going on. Now, it's also important to recognize, I moved this, here it is right here. I moved this off because I wasn't going to point it out, but now just since it seems relevant, a very alarmingly odd point here that Dr. Fauci somehow is the highest paid employee in the entirety of the U.S. government. Because that makes perfect sense. You realize that he's got supervisors. He's got people above him at NIH, above him at HHS. Alex Azar is his boss, but he makes more than all of them. Does that make sense to anybody? It sure makes sense once you see what a key piece he is in this whole agenda. Maybe we should be asking why. But of course, the media won't do that, right? Not with Fauci. Not today. Because they're not really here to get the truth for you. But it took Bansal and his Moderna team only 2 days to create the RNA sequence that would produce the spike protein. 2 days. 2 days. I mean, what in the world? And this, again, remember, this is 2 days after what was sent to them from China arrived. So 2 days to isolate it, 2 days to test it on other people, 2 days to re-isolate it from an infected person. Yeah, right. Now, needs to be delivered into the more accessible outer regions of the cell. Now it says the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines do that. That's why I highlighted that. So let me say that again. The Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines need to be delivered into a more accessible outer region of the cell as opposed to other vaccines. Now, they do so by encapsulating the mRNA in tiny oil capsules. Now, we talked about this already, known as lipid nanoparticles. Moderna has been working for 10 years to improve these nanoparticles. Nanoparticles, lipid nanoparticles, which is this, we're talking about the envelope that delivers the spike protein, if I understand correctly. And we're talking about lipid nanoparticles, which are obviously both in Pfizer and Moderna. We're talking about polyethylene glycol, which, according to Wikipedia, can affect 70% of this country. And we're all baffled about all this allergic side effects. But remember that nanoparticles are also one of the largest issues in regard to the issues with the one of the largest factors in regard to the issues with the brain. Issues with, everything. We're talking encephalitis, so we're talking about things like aluminum. In this case, we're talking about specifically nanoparticles in general.